So a brand new Yooka Laylee game came out last month and reviewers have been raving about it, calling it one of the greatest platformers to come out in recent years. But does this game actually live up to all the hype? Let's discuss right now.
I got hot sauce in my bag, swag.
A quick shout out to Reman. This is a fan art of Metal Duckles that they drew for me, and Metal Duckles looks really interesting in this drawing style actually. You know, almost looks like he's made out of toothpicks. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but he looks very menacing and very robotic and very scary, and I'm loving it. I kind of wish I got this video out in time for Halloween actually. Then this drawing could have really fit with that tone, but yeah, nonetheless, thank you so much Reman, I really appreciate it. Anyway, hello there beautiful human, my name is RidersDX. Welcome to my channel where today we're talking about Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair. And so I did talk about Yooka Laylee briefly on this channel before, but it didn't get the strongest reception, so I wasn't really planning on covering Yooka Laylee again. But about a month ago, Team17 was really nice enough to send me a copy of Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair. And so first of all, I just gotta say thank you so much to Team17 and Playtonic Games for first of all making this game, and second of all giving me a copy to review. I really appreciate it. And so I thought, you know, they were so nice enough to send me a copy. I thought the least I could do is play the game and share my thoughts about it. And so one of the first things I noticed when I got this game is that all the big publishers around were basically praising the game. You know, you got scores in the 8s, 9s, and 10s coming at you everywhere. I only saw like 1 or 2 mediocre ones, which got a lot of backlash. And so this game, from what it seemed like, was going to be a really great title. And so I had my expectations a little bit high going into this game, to be honest, when I really don't feel like I should have, because I did play a little bit of the original Yooka Laylee, and I was playing this at the same time as I was playing Banjo-Kazooie, and I immediately noticed just how much more I like Banjo-Kazooie compared to Yooka Laylee for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to go into, just because one, that's not what this video is about, and two, you've all have probably heard it from a whole bunch of other people already at this point. But Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair has proven from the very beginning to be a very different game from the first Yooka Laylee, because first of all, it's a 2.5D platformer, and so it's almost a complete genre shift. I mean, it's still a platformer, but it's a very different kind of platformer. And two, just the whole structure of the game is very different in this game compared to the original one. So to just go over the premise of this game really quickly. So basically, Capital B is up to his old tricks again, and he's basically kidnapped all of Queen Phoebe's royal battalion guards, and it's up to you, Yooka Laylee, to rescue all these battalion guards and conquer the Impossible Lair, where you will face off against Capital B and defeat him for the time being. I was gonna say once and for all, but we all know this is not the last Yooka Laylee game, and so you defeat him for the time being. And so the game is structured really interesting, because you can go ahead and go to the Impossible Lair from the very start of the game. In fact, you do go to the Impossible Lair, and you try to survive for as long as you can until you inadvertently die, because, well, it's the Impossible Lair. At least that's what it feels like when you first play through it. But the whole key and strategy to this game is that you rescue a bunch of the guards in Queen Phoebe's army, and the more guards you rescue, the more health you have in the Impossible Lair. And so you could go to the game and just play like half the levels and then beat the final level, or if you're really crazy or really extremely well skilled, you could go ahead straight into the Impossible Lair and pass the level and finish the game in like 10 minutes, which is kind of crazy to think about, but that's how this game is structured. And so you basically can play through as many levels as you want or as little levels as you want and get as little or as much as you want out of the game. And that's a very interesting concept to have here, and I just gotta say I really appreciate Playtonic Games for really trying something different here, because I feel like one of the things that was wrong with the original Yooka Laylee is that it wasn't trying to do things differently. It was trying to relive the glory days basically. But this game, one of the things I really appreciate about it from what I was seeing of it when it was being teased and gameplay footage was coming out, was that they were trying to do something a little bit different from this game. Even though it seems like a Donkey Kong Country successor, it was still trying to do a lot of things differently, and I really appreciated that. And so now that you got the premise on hand, you basically have all these 2D levels to go through, and you know, it's your basic, you know, Donkey Kong Country like platformer, but it feels a little bit more modernized compared to the classic titles, which I really do appreciate. I will say, just a full disclaimer, I'm not the biggest fan of 2D platformers, you know, it's just not my thing. I have a very hard time even getting into the Sonic ones, you know, let alone like a whole nother franchise. And so I was a little bit nervous going to this game because I knew everyone loved it and I wanted to love it too. I really did, you know, but I didn't know if I could genuinely love a 2D platformer. You know, it has to be a very specific kind of 2D platformer for me, you know, just kind of something that I can kind of jump in and out of, something that feels a little bit more casual. You know, that's just my gameplay style. But Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair is not a casual game. It's very much a game that skilled players are going to have a blast with, but people that might not be as in for a challenge, like me personally, it may not be the game for you. And so I was having quite a bit of fun with the 2D levels actually. You know, I was having more fun than I thought I was going to. You know, some of the platforming was very interesting and very unique, and Yooka Laylee controlled in a way that you don't feel overpowered, but at the same time you don't feel like you're completely screwed either. And so the game felt pretty balanced, and the levels have a lot of interesting designs and quirks to them that I really did enjoy. But if I'm being completely honest though, I have not and probably won't finish the game. And so I'm about like a fourth to a half of the game through, and I've been trying to play the entire thing for this review, and I simply could not bring myself to do it. And the reason that I'm saying this is not because the game is bad per se, but because the game really does feel like a challenge. You know, you have to be paying attention 24/7. You really have to be on it to get through these levels because they're not a walk in the park. You know, the game difficulty is pretty challenging, and you should expect nothing less from these developers. It's completely reasonable and makes sense, but these just aren't the kind of games I love to play personally. And so I really couldn't bring myself to finish it because I just simply didn't want to go through the levels again. I mean, I was having fun initially, but then it just kind of worn out on me after a while, and I sort of began to lose interest. I had to pound my head in the longest time, like, what was it about this gameplay that I didn't like? And quite simply, I think the fact is it was the fact that it was a challenging 2D platformer, and that's just not my cup of tea. And I think that's completely okay. Everyone has their own different tastes. This is why I tend to play 3D platformers more, because I love the open space you have in 3D platformers. I love that you can explore your own leisure, and I love that things never get too challenging or too intense, except for a few games here and there. But you know, I'm the kind of person that, like, I go to my video games because I love to explore a world and I love to kind of just traverse around it and kind of do what I want to do. And 2D platformers just don't have that kind of freedom. You're in a fixed location, you have a goal to get to. It's not really that kind of game. However, Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair does do things to try to make you backtrack and try to explore within these levels. And I'm going to talk about a feature now that I'm not as fond of, and something that I actually will criticize, and that is the fact that you need to progress through the game using twit coins, which are these collectibles that you collect through each level. And if you don't have enough at a point, then you can't progress to further levels within the game. And so I was starting to get to a point where I wasn't having enough twit coins, and I needed to go back and play previous levels to get these twit coins again. And just because I'm not as skillful of a player as other people are, I had a hard time like collecting these twit coins, especially my first run through. And so I started doing a lot of backtracking. I think that was one reason I started like just losing interest in the game and not wanting to play it. And so I will say, I don't think these systems are really the best to have in video games. It's very hard to make them seem like a good addition. I mean, some examples I can think of is Sonic Unleashed with the Sun and Moon medals. Like, no one liked those. SpongeBob movie game where you needed Goofy Goober tokens to drive the paddy wagon and get a second to last level. Having these like paywalls to get to the end of the game because the developers are trying to pad it out. I just don't think this is a good video game design, and it really doesn't benefit the game design here either. And so that was another thing that kind of just made me feel like, you know what, I like this game. I think it's been a good run, but I simply just can't really bring myself to finish it because one, it's not really my cup of tea, and two, there's a lot of work in trying to get through all the levels and basically play through the game. And I think it's a perfectly good experience if you love 2D platformers. You know, if you love 2D platformers, then Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair has a lot to offer, and it's a really fun and engaging game. But for me personally, it just wasn't my cup of tea. Now, I will say this though, there's a lot of great things about this game that I love that doesn't necessarily have to be the gameplay, but there is one gameplay asset that I haven't talked about that I absolutely love in this game, and that is the 3D overworld. And so the 3D overworld, it felt a little bit similar to the original Yooka Laylee game, but it felt a lot more condensed and a lot more puzzle oriented. And so you have an overhead view first of all, so you're looking at the top of Yooka Laylee heads basically throughout the entire time, but you have this world that seems small, but the more you kind of dive into it, the more secrets and hidden collectibles and such you stumble upon. And I have to say actually, and this might be a controversial comparison, but I felt like the fact that this overworld was so much more closed off compared to the original Yooka Laylee game made it feel a little bit more similar to the original Banjo-Kazooie game. One of the things I loved about Banjo-Kazooie compared to Yooka Laylee is that Banjo-Kazooie had smaller environments, but there was more packed into it, and so there was more things going on everywhere you looked in Banjo-Kazooie, while in Yooka Laylee there was just so much open space that you didn't really know what to do a lot of the time. And so they condensed it in this game and they made this overworld, which what felt like was supposed to be just an add-on to pad out the game. It turned out to be my favorite part of this game. You know, I loved walking around the overworld and trying to get to all the different areas and such and solving all the different puzzles. And when I would unlock a level, I actually found myself not wanting to leave the overworld because I was having so much fun exploring in it. And so this game actually really excites me now, because if they can take this concept and these ideas and put them in a brand new 3D game, then I think Playtonic Games has full potential of giving us another great and amazing 3D platformer. One of the biggest issues that I found Yooka Laylee was just there was just too much open space and not enough to do. But you condense it and make the experience feel a little bit more focused, but still have that element of exploration in it. I really think they can meet that delicate balance that they were able to meet with the first Banjo-Kazooie game. And so that's why the overworld really excited me. I had a lot more fun with it than I thought I was going to. I thought it was just going to be like on the level of like an adventure field in Sonic Adventure, for example, or the hub worlds in Sonic Unleashed. I thought it was going to be to that extent, but the overworld has so many different secrets and hidden collectibles for you to identify. You could spend just as much time in the overworld as you do in the actual levels, which is such a cool thing about this game. And that's why this game has so much replay value and so much to do in it. You could be playing this game for hours and still not have like gone through everything. To top it all off, the game looks and sounds great as well. You know, Grant Kirkhope helmed this soundtrack and we all like love his music. He does such a great job of it, and this game is no exception to it. I love the soundtrack to this, and the game just looks gorgeous overall. I got to play this on the PS4, and so it runs at a full 60 FPS. The game runs great. I didn't really notice any performance issues, and the game just looks amazing overall. This is a really well put together package, and I completely understand why the game got such good scores. But to summarize everything, the 2D platforming just wasn't my cup of tea. I wasn't really that into it. It just felt frustrating at times, and I know that's part of the challenge of the game and that's part of the charm of 2D platformers, but it just simply isn't my cup of tea. But I got a lot of fun out of the 3D overworld, and I really hope to see like at least these ideas taken into the next Yooka Laylee game. I don't necessarily want a whole Yooka Laylee game with this overworld like structure, but I really want them to take some of these ideas and concepts that worked really well in this game and bring them over to the next 3D platformer, because I think if they focus their game a little bit more, then I think the next big Yooka Laylee 3D platformer game can be a really great game. And so I'm excited, and I really can't wait to see what Playtonic Games comes out with next. But hopefully they don't keep going down a 2.5D platformer realm, because I'm just not that into it. But that's pretty much all my thoughts in this game, and so I hope I didn't disappoint anyone with saying like the things I said. It's not that I think the game is bad, I just don't think it's my cup of tea, but I really do think the game is structurally built very well, and the game deserves all the praise that's getting. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think about Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair? Did you like it better than the first game? Do you like it less than the first game? Let me know why not in the comment section below. What do you hope to see from Yooka Laylee next right after this? But again, thank you so much to Team17 and Playtonic Games for sending me a review copy, and thank you to you all for watching this video. But alright, thank you so much. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to my channel if you like videos like these and want to see more in the future. Follow me on Twitter or Twitch, and join my Discord server, the Spongy Garden. Special shout out to Reese Gaming, Team Rival Sonic Gamer, Glitched Alphin, and Andrew Coughlin. These are my patrons / YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member, get access to a whole bunch of different perks, and check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.